than 6 decades, the Florida Star has reported the news of the week on Florida's first coast, Georgia, and the nation, with special emphasis on the issues confronting and success made from an African American point of view. Two families have owned and published the paper, the latest being the McLaughlin family, with Renetta McLaughlin Fifi, or Fifi, in charge now, in a continuing effort to tell the stories. Renetta, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's been quite a journey, but let's get right to it. What are today's challenges for the Florida Star
Oh,
and
wow.
for its reporters?
All right. So, yeah, and just a quick say we've just made our 74th anniversary. So just wanted to mention that. I know you mentioned 6 decades, but just made 74 years. And so grateful for just that in itself. That is a challenge in itself, just being a printed newspaper. That is, I think, the challenge of many companies, whether it be magazine, anything in print. People are now, of course, we love the web. It has been a good and a bad thing, but sometimes, for us, as far as for the print, it has put some people literally out of business. For us, we've been grateful that we've still been able to still print. People still go buy and pick it up. But some of those challenges, that is one of the challenges, is just making sure that we have had to cut back a bit in the last probably year, because financially it can be tough. If it's that's been a challenge, is just trying to make sure that we keep up with putting more toward on the web versus printing it out. So that's definitely one of the biggest challenges that we face as far as competition wise, is just trying to, in that battle, just basically with technology, because news is like right away as people take out their phones. That's the other challenge, is that news is right there, right away. You don't have time to say, oh, we're going to talk about that tomorrow. There's no tomorrow sometimes within this game. It's happening right now, right there. And, you have to jump on top of it. That's one of our advantages, that we do the paper weekly. And so we are kind of able to keep up with things as far as putting them out there. But again, one of those challenges is that the web sometimes can beat you on those great stories and kind of get a little leg up sometimes. But we do have people that call us and say, hey, we want to do this exclusively for the Florida Star. And I'm forever still grateful for those people who do that in the community, who come to me, say, hey, we want the Florida Star to have this first. And so I'm totally, grateful. It's just, again, still a youngster for me in this side of the business from mom. So again, grateful for that. But that's probably some of the biggest challenges at times, is technology, and then just keeping up with what's going on out there.
So the issues are not radically different, but they are the same issues that are facing most newspaper publishers today. And
Yes, sir.
that is getting the information out there. How about the issue? One of the biggest issues I had when I've talked with several newspaper publishers, and obviously one of the major things has to do with advertising. How have advertisers, both locally and nationally, treated the Florida Star? Back in the early days, there was always a difference between how local advertisers were going to treat the local newspapers, and how you treat it nationally. How has advertisers treated the Florida Star?
So I would say that still can be a challenge for sure. Because advertising, that is definitely your bread and butter when it comes to being with a newspaper. It is your bread and butter. And when it slows down and it gets tough. I would definitely say, as far as for us locally, we still do, I think, a really great job with them coming to us still with stories. And so I'm grateful for the Jacksonville and surrounding communities in Georgia as well that come to us. Nationally, I would say there are people that know about us nationally, but the biggest issue I have sometimes is just getting those national stories and ad companies to come to us. There's competition out there for that as well. So a lot of times we get the biggest rush is when it's election time. I can admittedly say that it's when
Yeah.
everybody comes to us,
Yep.
'cause it's
Yep.
election time. So I can say that's probably, and then after the election, you can see that definitely fall off financially for us. That can be challenging as soon as that time is over. So yes, as far as nationally, it is still tough. But again, it's not something that we stop. We go, we do pretty great as far as doing things with Publix. We've done things with Bank of America, Target. And so there's some companies that definitely come to us that again still want to get just the word out in different communities. And so we're grateful. Yeah, we're a smaller newspaper, but we still go after the big things out there too, as far as for national ads. And again, we do sometimes capture those, but again, yes, it can be challenging in all truthfulness of the question.
Have you found the interest in African American affairs to have waned any since the discussion of racism is far less today, my view, far
Right.
less today than
Okay.
it was, say, than it was 60, 70 years ago? The issues are still there, but let's face it, we got a lot of black Republicans now that are running, including
So,
that maybe be running for governor of Florida here shortly. So, have you
so
found the issues any different for your community than it was before?
So some of them do come to me. Even though our paper, is definitely leans more, I would say almost to we're supposed to be in the middle, let's say that. But it gets very difficult to be in the middle when you're supposed to be non-biased as a paper. But again, some of those views, as you know, still come through because we have no choice but to talk about some of those views. Um, I agree with you that racism is not as blatant as it may have been back in those times when it first started, but it is still there. I look at the things that are going on with education and healthcare, and how they're trying to remove books and things out of, the schools, out of libraries in the Florida area and in areas here in the southern area as well. So again, although I don't think it's as blatant sometimes, it is still there. And so there's the facts of trying to remove our history or to decrease the volume of our history and what things that really happened. Those are things I still think that are relevant to us today. And we still have to speak up with those things because they're still relevant and they're still things that we still have work to do, for lack of a better way of saying it.
Uh,
So again, yes, we do have others come as far as a couple. I don't, like I say, when it comes to doing ads, when it's an election time, because we have people on both sides, we do take ads from both sides. But again, I would still say the majority of it is still comes from the Democratic side. But again, I don't, as far as when it comes to that person trying to get in or whatever the case may be. Only thing I have any issue with, and most people know this, and I tell it up front, I'm pretty transparent. I don't do a lot of what's the best way to say it? It was the best, or even more PC way to say it. I don't do a lot of things as far as negative toward our community. We have enough negativity out there, so I don't like things that really and I'm not talking about just dirt throwing. I'm, used to that when it comes to politics. I'm talking about things that are truly negative and that draw, really try and pull down people. Because I said, I think we have enough of that out there as far as in the news. And so I particularly very transparent when I tell people if there's something they want to put in, I don't mind putting in pieces that are relevant to us, whether it's on one side or the other. But the things that are trying to pull us down and weigh us down, I think we have enough of that out there. And so that's pretty much my only rule. And most of my staff know that if somebody approaches us with a story that's pretty, they usually like to let me read it if it's even borderline that, because it's just, it's enough of that out there, for lack of a better way of saying it. I don't want to add to the negativity. We hear enough of that. And there's a lot going on out there in general. But when it comes to politics, I mean, community, business, and education, those are still things that are challenges and that definitely are still relevant to talk about in all aspects of our newspaper. So again, yes, the times have changed where it may not be as like I say, as boldly, as blatantly sometimes, but sometimes it is. It's we've had some folks, including, I said some of our politicians right now that are that bold and say it out loud. And so those, yeah, we do have to get it out there to where you have to be educated on what's really right and what's wrong and what's true and what's not true.
what do you find are the top three stories that
Oh,
repeat themselves most often for the Florida Star?
you already mentioned politics. So I would definitely say politics is definitely one that's pretty much in that top area, regardless of who that may be, whether it's the mayor, whether it's the governor, whether it's the city council. Politics most definitely is still a top story, and it's definitely something that we need to know, and it's still very important. Things of our voting rights, our civil rights are things that we still need to talk about. As far as education and preserving our history, those are still top stories and the things that I do like to put on the front page. And many people, who know me know that too. So again, anything that's whether it's bringing up the history and still preserving our history and putting it out there as far as education wise, that's definitely a top story. And the third one, tough. I said kind of tough between overall kind of community and entertainment things as well, because people still love the sensationalism of that piece too. That part hasn't died down, I don't think, with any newspaper. So again, I would say probably entertainment, sensationalism, some of the sports stories, those are probably all run a close tie to be on number three, though, I would say.
Yeah, and I would agree with that because it's one of the places that I can always depend on to see what's happening in the community on a cultural basis, on a regular basis. I know that a lot of television stations now are trying to cover everybody all the time, but I know that every week I'm going to see exactly what activity took place within the Black community here locally. Like I said, region wide, as far as you guys reported. I know I'm going to see those stories there because people are going to naturally make sure they get the information to the Florida Star to get printed and to see their face on there, and they can hold on to that picture forever once it's in
Right.
the Florida Star.
We still love that, again, still just love the community who, like I say, they will call us and they want us to be first. And I love that. Whether it's, a grandbaby's birthday, whether it's the grandmother in the nursing home who's 104 plus years old, which you get those stories all the time. And I love those.
Mhm.
So again, yes, the community, local stories are there, where the sorority, fraternity, stories. We love it all. I truly love it all. And I'm so grateful, like I say, to the community for all these years for the support that they give us to still to still stay alive and still be challenged in getting that word out there.
Early on, and this is talking about the kind of stories that are being covered. Early on, there was a lot of murders and rapes and drug dealing and all of that occurred uh, within the communities, within the community that you cover. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't see as much of that popping up in the news, even generally, than it did before. Do you find less of that activity among among the population, or is it just something that's not being reported like it was before?
I think it's not being reported as much. That was even when my mom was living. I think she kind of made a turn from that too. Not really sure what turned that tide. I can say that. I know we still have, the bad crime and ugly stories that are going on out there, but I'm not totally sure. I can be honest with you, Mr. Matthew. I'm not totally sure what changed that tide, but I can say I do see it less. Sometimes it used to be you could count on your fingers almost a countdown before you see that story on the news at night.
All right.
You would see it on our front pages too. That's when my mother first bought the paper. That was probably on there so much, and I kind of mentioned, I'm like, "Hey, what's the deal? Is this what's all that's going on here?" Because it would be what catch people, and people made that comment to me. That's what they're known for. They would bring the big stories out with the big murder cases of the big trials. Big. And I said I understood that, but I'm like, I feel like it should be a balance. But I can say I do see it less, even just in general in the news. You're correct that we don't see those stories as much as we did. I know, and even just a few years ago, I would say with even in the last 10 years, you're correct. I would definitely say I do see a downturn. Not sure really what caused that downturn, to be honest with you. But again, I do see it. It's definitely a more of a where it's added in there. It's in there, and those stories are there because those folks reach out to us too. They want, especially families of those victims, they reach out to us and want those stories to be told and don't want those folks to be forgotten. So again, anytime we hear anything in the community, even, most recently, even with the Georgia case that they had out in Brunswick, when we heard, that judge secretly called a meeting. There were people calling me that morning saying, "Hey, the judge called this meeting." We hadn't even heard it. I didn't see it anywhere in the news that night that there
Mm.
was a meeting about that fella and his son. And I'm like, what are they doing? I mean, they were already convicted. And so I hadn't didn't if people hadn't mentioned it to me that it was going on in Brunswick that day, which was it was not that long ago, literally probably less than 3 months ago when that secret hearing was done. And I say secret because it wasn't anywhere on the news, as you
Oh,
mentioned.
we're talking about the Arbery issue?
Yes, there
Ah,
was, yes, recently. I said there was a recently, but nothing, I saw nothing on the national news that evening. I saw nothing on the local news, heard nothing other than people in the neighborhood telling us they were headed to the courthouse so they could see what would happen. And
mm.
but you didn't see anything. And so I just use his case as recent because it still is, it still is a murder case. And I'm like, it still should be something that if it's something like that, to me, that should be something that should be front and foremost when it's something as
Uh,
such. But
are we fully online now? Do we have full access to the Florida Star
you do,
online?
we do have for, so that's one of the things that I know you asked, we're going to ask about what's next. So we are online, but I would like for it to be a little bit more up to date. In all transparency, I said, I have a couple of staff members that keep that up to date. But it's not, to me, I feel like it still needs a bit, as I mentioned before, like what's going on like right now. I wish I could be able to capture it right now, but
Mhm.
we don't do it as much on the update. So I would love to definitely increase our presence on the web and the social sites and to kind of keep it up real time, and a better way to say it, into real time. And so that's kind of a wish of mine as far as for what's next for us when we talk about the technology challenges for us.
All right. Why do it?
Oh
Why
man,
do this? You have another profession. You have other things you could do.
yes.
Why do it? Why do this?
Yeah, so wow. So good question. I say that sometimes. Sometimes I'm like, why did mom do this? Okay, why did she do this? But she told us, I can say with my mother, and it still rings true. She said media was the best way to reach our people. That was one of the things that she said. She says it's so important because she says some people just don't care about what's going on in our community. They just don't care about us sometimes. And she says the media is the best way to get it out. And she did that whether it was through books, whether it was through TV, whether it's through radio, newspaper. She did all of those outlets to be able to still keep us up as to what's going on, that she let the people know that she still cared. And I still feel like that's part of my passion too. Because I still see that it's still relevant almost 75 years later. Both Mr. Simpson and my mom have passed, but it's still relevant. We still don't always hear our stories on the front page, on the news. You don't still hear those stories. And so that's what makes it passionate to me. I'm very passionate about healthcare. As you know, I'm a nurse by background. So about healthcare, I don't feel like our health issues as far as maternal care and things that are going on with our families, I still don't think that they're there in the front. And I think they deserve to be front page news. And that makes me passionate for those things. As far as healthcare, education, it makes me angry to know that people are pulling books. I'm a reader. I love to read, absolutely love to read. So for me to think that some of these kids may not have some of those opportunities to read some of the things that I enjoyed reading without us, maybe putting a list out every few weeks on a review or something, they may not see those books anymore. And so and I'm one who is definitely passionate about the next generation. I have a son, he's in his 20s. And so I don't want kids his age and younger not to have those opportunities as far as to see those different things that are out there for them to learn and to grow and just to be every day what's the best word to say? Well grown adults, to be well rounded. Because again, and I don't think you can be well rounded just by having narrow thinking. You have to open your mind and have to enjoy, I said, all the opportunities of things that are coming to you as far as healthcare, education, politics. I said, but you need to hear all sides of it. If we had to do it, some of us that they're preaching to some of us to do and get rid of some of these books, we'd only have the narrow way of thinking. So again, I'm very passionate about having just an outlet for people to come to where they can still see all of what's going on with us. And so again, I definitely agree with my mother. I definitely didn't see it as a kid when she preached about the media in our household. But again, I definitely see it now and see the benefit of it, and understand the benefit of it and how important it is to our community overall. So again, that's what keeps me going, that I know that it's still needed. It truly is still needed. I feel like if it's gone away, I'm like, who's going to do it? Where is it going to come from? How is the word going to get out there? And so, the grassroots, and I still feel like it's a grassroots type of thing, to get the word out as to what's going on in our community.